Shirley here with Alice Moon. We have a midheaven on the world degree where the Saturn-Neptune conjunction will take place. And we have Mars, our own, a Mercury night. I'm going to try to address this topic as lightly as possible. And this is coming following literally years of tending to some of the harshest topics to tend to, and having that affected all areas of my life. So, astrologically speaking, we are going to, in about 20 years, have a harmonious aspect, which means an agreement between Aries and Pluto on a closing sextile. That means that people like me will be around their 60s. People in their 20s will be in their 40s. And very likely, people begin to awaken to the fact that they might be a generation that will have to do something of the generation of Los Alamos. I am being awakened to that. My personal story is that I heard bits of information around my childhood when it came to one of the people of Los Alamos, which was Einstein, who initiated the project. I did not know he initiated the project, and what I would get is the aftermath. And so I was reluctant to go and study physics because I didn't want my inventions or discoveries to be used not in favor of humanity. Nothing and no one prepared me that given the ritual abuse and the horrid things that happened to children and women in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, regardless of the United States, might have ended tremendous amount of suffering, but unfortunately, with Aries, caused tremendous amount of suffering, and the correction would not be not to drop the bombs, but to drop them so much so that there wouldn't be margins. Japan is an island, so is Epstein Island. We are becoming more and more aware that those things that we were told that were only occurring during slavery or during the Holocaust or during the American foundation of the colonies or the American Independence War were a several years occasion and not an ongoing upbringing of every single generation, indigenous and not, within communities that are also indigenous. So if you take out the West, the East, and all, and the communist, whatever, you still have tribal wars that do beyond horrid things to each other on a very daily basis. Nothing beats political culture. Even the tool of let them have wars so that they would long for peace, which was accentuated by people like Ehud Barak, who confessed to have slept with a teenager, with a child, and said he doesn't see any problem with that. It's not about him being a friend of Epstein. This is his confession. And if that was wrong, okay, I supposedly stand corrected, but I would need all the things that are going missing from Google to be retrieved. So, in about 20 years, we will have an agreement between Pluto and Aries again. It's a closing sextile. Aries is demarginalized in society. Unfortunately, the weapon associated with that is also causing margins. Pluto will be on the boundary between Aquarius and yes, it might even be on Denabalgadi, the boundary between Aquarius and Pisces. Aries between Aries and Taurus. So we're definitely talking weapon here. And if you watch my series Laser Focused on Beachute Jupiter Point of Thales, you understand that the nature of the planet is affecting the nature of the weapon that we create. For example, laser is also Neptune, and there is a tend of that going under the radar, of that being associated with mysterious things that surround that, and at the same time of that liquidating wealth of people who invested in laser real estate, and they might not know that they're invested because most investments are not transparent. And at the same time, there might be a mystery that is miraculous healing to some, following those trajectories. So, for example, masses of people that thought that they are going to have their tenants paying their rent, discovering that they need to fight with the homeless. Not to fight the homeless, but to unite with the homeless and to fight them. That's the people that they said they don't want to work a couple of years ago, and now they have to reunite. Not all of them, but those who haven't sold their soul, definitely they do. And those that did, maybe they need, I don't know, euthanasia or something. So, and Neptune rules lack. So the lack of weapon as well, because it needs to be global. And so the generation of people that are affected by this transit, it's everyone, yes, but the generation of people that are affected by this transit, the people that have it in their chart, okay, they can have significant Aries placements, Aries moon squares, okay, even Aries moons agreements, Aries moons conjunctions. For some people, Aries is conjunct in their moon. For some people, Aries is conjunct in their Mercury, like me. So Aries is basically applying to oppose my Pluto, as and she will oppose my Pluto as she will agree with the transit in Pluto. And so while my natal Pluto, where I came from, was not going to study physics so that my inventions will not be used like the A-bomb, to an understanding that the ritual abuse underlying the creation of the A-bomb, which is masses of people in tremendous helpless situation, we are in the era where Pluto still sextiles Neptune, and it's going to be in the aftermath of that sextile. It's going to be in the beginning of the aftermath of that sextile when they begin to release. And the release from an aspect is always very important. because this is going to be their last agreement. Neptune is going to be conjuncting Aries in 15 years, and Pluto will begin to sextile, the closing sextile. So for those of you for whom it resonates, some of you might be, and again, I see some of you in their 60s, particularly those of you in their 60s, because you feel like you have something to teach of the young generation. But if you don't defund ritual abuse, then that agreement will come to be, and it is within that system that these A-bombs will grow, because the understanding of what those ritual abuse type of things do on a mass scale is that, you know, people of the younger generation, of the Pluto Scorpio generation, some maybe the Pluto Libra, but particularly the Pluto Scorpios, because they had to deal with what the Pluto Libras didn't manage to achieve. And those water run deep, okay? And what we haven't managed to achieve, the ritual abuse we haven't managed to stop, the domestic violence, the rape, the supposed life of peace. And again, it's not the fault of these people that they haven't managed to stop, and at the same time they ain't got no, they don't have something to teach us, because all that they have to teach us by now, they have a lot of teaching, but what they have when it comes to what to do about that, the ritual abuse needs to stop on a both indigenous and not indigenous level. It's not something that can go on, and whatever they have to teach, all the people before you were going through that, people before you going to that. It's like nobody. No, it's not that people don't care. It's like we know what you were, even from the tip of the iceberg of what you guys were going through, and for that to not happen again, what is needed is that type of agreement that our generation already see coming. Because when we are going to be in your age, when we are going to be in our 60s, we're going to be dropping those bombs. It's our entire childhood that prepared us to that day. Unless something that stops all this ritual abuse, and it doesn't matter if it's called the mafia, if it's called the Vatican, if it's called Mecca, if it's called a tribe in, I don't know, in Taiwan, it doesn't matter. This type of living on earth cannot go on. Our generation understands that. And when people talk about nuclear holocaust like it's a disaster, no, the disaster is what is going on right now. For people that are going through these rituals, and they have to both perpetuate and go to these rituals, unless they manifest mass death that is immediate mass death. It's not about suffering, it's not about sacrifice. It's not about Moloch, it's not about Satan, it's not about Baphomet. It's about life. And if what is happening right now is not allowing for life, and again, we have 20 years. We have 20 years. But we cannot ignore the fact that Pluto and Aries, the atomic duo, and this time Neptune is going to conjunct Aries. This time it's not going to be two bombs. It wasn't even before, but yes, it's not going to be two bombs. Let me take a look at Japan today. A man can go with whomever, whatever, okay, fine, let him enjoy. If a woman does it, she cannot. If she goes to the office and somebody sees her shoulder, it is too exposed. I just saw a lady that talked about dress code in Japan. She was going with a very fine dress that could be both business attire and to go to drink with people after work, which is the casual meetings that do business. Everybody knows that the business are done at the after work hours. Her shoulder was exposed, so she said this is considered a risque attire in Japan. Tell me that that gap does not end in A-bombs again. It does. And it's not about USA. USA can say, I'm sorry, 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 not sorry. Oh, what a destruction. What a destruction is within, that the person has to go smiling and ha 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 ha. And then for they are raped and they're this and they're that. And it's not just in Japan, everybody knows that. Our generation sees that. And there is only so much that the generations before us, and even those of our generations and even younger generations, that turn the blind eye to that and perpetuate that. There is only, while they're bringing children, while they're baby booming in COVID, while they're, how are these children going to live? While they're cloning children, you want to tell me that the bomb should not drop on these cloning factories? Because these children, when they go through torture and ritual abuse, nobody's going to know. There's not going to be, they're not going to go back to living with their parents. Some of them are going to receive parents, but some of them, they're not going to, nobody's going to know. They're not going to wake up in their 30s, 40s and they say, oh, what was that pink fluoride at school? Or go to their childhood school that they moved into with the mother and the grandparents, so that they can get to the school, so that they can get to the opportunities, and say, I don't remember a thing from my high school and it looks like somebody else. While they're stepping in the area, the territory of the high school, we're supposed to bring memories. What do I remember of being, dream of being assassinated, and that was a relief. And I look at the chart and I see that then I can delineate that dream. And then I begin to remember what the dreams that I had there, and I was like, there was some ritual abuse taking place. They were messing with the dream state of the children. So when it comes to science, everybody wants to deny the science until there are bombs to certify for that science. And sometimes until there are bombs, nobody cares. Everybody outdoes the nobody can get a mental health treatment, because then they will begin to remember, 1 in 1 Americans will begin to remember the MK Ultra experiments that were done to them in their childhood, in the best of schools, in the programs of the gifted and talented. But not only. If you didn't go to the test of the gifted and talented, do you think that they would not find you? Why is my English so good? I grew up in Israel. I did immersion, yes, but I grew up in Israel. Why is my English so good? My accent. I haven't worked on my accent. My accent changes, many of you know. I did immersion, yes. I had a teacher from New York. So we got some of the accent. But is that the entire explanation? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So that closing sextile, that agreement will be with Neptune conjunct in Aries Neptune is about, when we had Neptune sextile Pluto and Saturn Jupiter were going over Pluto sextile in Neptune, we had COVID. Doesn't matter, a military operation, not a military operation, the entire world was affected by that. Now that with A-bombs is nuclear holocaust. And the thing that some of the people in my generation have been trying to say to people, that those little things that they think don't matter, or that they don't do anything about in union, they matter. That little agreement of the person with the real estate to make of their estate a human trafficking apartment, it matters. They're gonna know. Oh yes, in that unit, four unit, 3 unit, family lives for 20 years. 1 unit, every time people change. Every time, what is wrong with that unit? Maybe they made of it some sort of a house with some sort of weird things going on. And all the neighbors, all the neighborhood knows. The bus drivers were telling me, you live in that unit, don't you? Why? Because they would think it. I don't know what they would think it, because this. So the entire city knows. It's not secret. They're gonna know that people change every once in a while. Once was rape, once was this, once was that. 1 unit, but because the sacrifice to that unit. And they think it's a small thing, people are not going to notice. They're gonna know. That thing is not for all the children and all the teenagers and all those little apartments. You think the suffering that people go and they say, pleasant suffering, pleasant suffering, pleasant suffering. It's a nervous system. It's a giant nervous system that is read by intelligence, artificial intelligence, not artificial intelligence, and is affecting the nervous system, the overall, what people call frequency. And then when somebody wants to come up with a weapon, to design a weapon that would end the war, that would end the suffering, and where to drop that? Well, why won't we experiment on that town? And there's no problem to experiment on that town when it comes to Baphomet. And sometimes not everybody's even gonna know, but it ended a lot of suffering of a lot of people that were so isolated that nobody heard their voice anymore. And it's our generation that understand that Pluto is applying to that sextile with Neptune in Aries. Neptune conjunct in Aries. Neptune is something you feel in the entire world. The last agreement of Neptune and Aries was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Unless you want to go to the Pluto Sagittarius generation, which was building up to the 9/11. So 9/11, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. And you think about all the bombings, all the MK Ultra attacks on innocent people that went to school by people that maybe drank the pink fluoride, and then they needed to kill a child of some sort of somebody, and that's school shootings. Why? Because they wanted to take the weapon from the people before the Civil War. Uranus is already in Gemini. How do you convince Americans to not carry guns? Well, you kill them by the masses. I'm not saying that Americans carrying gun is good or bad. Yes, if people are doing that to each other, of course it's going to end in mass death. So as our generations begin to tend to this on an energy level, try to end the ritual abuse on an energy level, on a global level, and it's being dismissed, and it's being misunderstood, and it's being judged, the news that we have to break to you is that the agreement, that the last trine that we had when Pluto was between Cancer and Leo, and Aries was at the beginning of Aries, that agreement opened with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even the beginning of the applied trine, you could safely say that Pluto is slowly leaving the square, which means that it is already, as it is leaving the square with Aries, it is applying to the closing sextile. And Neptune is going to be conjuncting Aries with that. So if you think about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, think again. This is going to be way more global. Now, people love to talk about, oh, there's a fear of nuclear holocaust, if this, if that, and global government, and so on and so forth. Yes, all of that is true, but you still go to your ritual abuse rites and do the feminization rites and still go to your trafficked teenager and so on and so forth. So you're doing nothing to avoid that when you do that. And still silence the testimonies of the people that try to end ritual abuse. Then the voices will not be heard, but the bombs will drop. And taking part in ritual abuse is what makes those bombs drop. And making people isolated from options of taking part in the ability to make a living, or taking part in the ability to have a home, a place to stay, a place to sleep, a place where they can rest. Okay, and taking part in forcing people into ritual abuse is not sex. They want the energy for to dedicate to this Moloch or whatnot. It's not sex. And then making that a condition for to have a job, for to have connections that can lead to business, for to have a housing, for to have trading options, for to have this, for to have that, for to have an A bomb that drops on all of them. And the bunkers are not going to function. Unless you mean to live 70 years like Disney. Everybody knows that to be in a bunker is not something that is pleasant. And the traumas of the aftermath is not something that is pleasant. So our generation already understands and what our generation understands is difficult for people to digest even when they went through the horrors, because those are the people that keep perpetuating the horrors, and they think they have sometimes something to teach us younger generation, like the teaching is run dry when if your teaching is ritual abuse, then you've got no teaching. It's not your fault, but you see, if a person say hurt people, if somebody is so much so in the battlefield, if somebody is so much so that they go around crazy and begin to hurt everyone and nobody can get a hold of them, then you shoot them dead. Because this person, not because this person is bad. And if you cannot shoot them dead, then you pray for somebody to shoot them dead or for something to end that suffering. And this is how you get the intergenerational planets involved, because it's a generational thing. It's an intergenerational thing. And what the bisextile won't manage to do, and with the funding going through ritual abuse and trafficking of people so that people will be appeased. And it was a lady that they sent to one of these NATO meetings, and she stands up and tells the Secretary General, how about making investment in defense sexy again? Which literally means also trafficking her. And then there is a summit, and that is what is done, and then they get everybody 5%, and now countries want to opt out. There's no amount of ritual abuse and rape that can convince them that this is a good investment when that is what is done to get the investment. Because it would be invested in more of the same, in more of the MK Ultra, in more of the ritual abuse that got us to where we are. And that is a weld block on the actual weapon that needs to be to defend peace. Because defense of peace is something that is needed. Okay? If there are some people that go through ritual abuse and they are the enemy, then you're going to need to shoot them dead. But what the bisextile won't manage to do, then the sextile between Pluto and Aries, with Neptune conjuncting Aries. And we have a lot of support. We have a lot of support for the bisextile. It's trine in Sedna. If the mining of the minerals will be done with slavery, the entire world will go hungry. Not because they won't have food. They'll have printed food, but there will be no food in it. Why? There will be the different type of minerals that interfere with the absorption of minerals. That is what happened to our food industry. Many of you notice why many people can't go vegan. Yes, I'm not saying that vegan is a good nutrition for you, but let's say you had to be a month on only fruits and vegetables, okay? In most westernized supermarkets, even the Whole Foods of them, you will be literally starving. You will be literally on a fast of a month because you take an apple and the apple no longer has the vitamins. You take a tomato, it no longer has the lycopene. You take a garlic, it no longer has the nutrients. So it's no longer a superfood. Why? Well, it goes back to the soil. What is the missing? Minerals. Well, where do we look for minerals? Who is mining for minerals? How are our minerals mined? You know, if it is okay to have enslaved children raped and tortured in the mines as some sort of weird ritual or something, and that goes into our food, that goes into our cars, why do we expect the fluorides and the xylitol not to go into our teeth? Oh, I'm sorry, you thought that this is good for your health. So were these children told that they are free. Not just in the mines, but in the elite that owns the mines, then the children are raped and told that they are free, and then at 12, 13 they have to agree to mass assassin, and it's considered a choice that they make supposedly sovereignly to sell their soul to some horn god. And so our generation, the Pluto Scorpios, has to deal with that. Sweden made a completely different culture of mining. So if you think there is no answer, there was an answer. But everybody's scared of Sweden because they had a 105% tax. That was money laundering. But the rest of the welfare state was simply they had to give good conditions to the miner. They made some good money with the mining. And that's how they grew the welfare state. Now, instead of having infrastructure that is ecosystemic in the rural area, they say, why not suffocate Malmo and then drop a bomb on it? Makes sense. That's the economy. So people will vie for the removal of the welfare state. And then it will be this gogo-magog because people can't really have an income. It's all mafiosi, and then the mafiosi will infiltrate through the private equitization of private sector. If either it infiltrates to the state or to the private sector. Does both. And then it will take from everybody the ability to work the nutrients in the food and then tell them that they have gluttony. Because when there are no minerals in the food, people grow hungrier. So they actually eat more. And they can grow fat. Because there's no good absorption and digestion. So it looks like they're fat with indulgence. That's what everybody thinks about Americans. No, they're malnourished. Even the Americans that go to Whole Food, okay, they used to travel to Europe and Europe still had food. And suddenly the ladies will begin to menstruate regularly again. I did not know that. I would listen to cultural shocks of American in Europe. That's 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 what I would know. I'm like, okay, something weird is happening in the land of the free. And then what they tell them, well, you're better off than North Korea. They take a North Korean person and they say, oh, people worry about the pronouns and this and that. Here, at least I have rights. At least I'm not in North Korea. Now, who created North Korea? Who created Afghanistan? Who created Iran 79? Who's trying to create that in Israel? So all of these things have, like Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, not all the people all the time. This is those time in history, this is my addition on Lincoln, that they try to fool all the people all the time. So people are bound to awaken and they have but 23, they have 20 years, 23 years, 20 years to do so. How much was the nuclear factory in Iran harmed? Well, it wasn't so harmed because to harm it completely we would need to make of Iran say that they're irrational player, and it ain't like those folks that put pink fluoride in their children's food is kind of like more rational. Particularly not when now the European countries have to pay for NATO, so the fiscal centralism of United States is decentralizing. And Germany is getting weaponized again. So, yes, oh, Germany is going to build a bomb. What are we going to do? Drop 2 bombs in Japan. But Japan is in NATO. Okay, and You can't do Article 5 on that. You can do Article 5 on Texas. Soon you will be able to do Article 5 on Texas. So the world is a bit crazy, this is true. But the point of interference, again, for what I see, we can't beat political culture. And the more social engineering is done to engineer the culture, and you see with the person that they're doing trafficking on one side and then they try to date someone on the other side, not gonna go. You see, the Pluto Virgo can still carry the duality because it's Mercury sign. It still carries the two. The Pluto Scorpio is no longer. This is the depth of the water, so they go into the depth of the transformation. And many of the Scorpios are kind of like in that generation where you pick a side. And that side is supposed to end for those rituals that are done to people, children, whatnot. But if everybody swipes it under the rug, then they swipe the science that's supposed to treat them under the rug, and then they get this technology and put laser on their face and laser on this and laser on that. I'm about to put laser in my toenails. Let's see how it works. Why? Because you can't have medicine when something gets stuck. And sometimes the medicine is a house. Sometimes the medicine is to rest a little. Sometimes the medicine is those things. And then when you can't get that medicine, then it gets stagnant. And then you have to use weapon technology to release that. Release that stagnation. The 12 years old child that the Makler was trying to traffic them and waiting for their parents to sell them so that they can have an opportunity at having fair rent while they're waiting for public housing, way before any current president or prime minister was even elected. Yes, that child, when that city goes off, that child thinks, well, it's sad, but hey, many children were trafficked there. Probably it's the end of their suffering. Many children did have parents that sold them to the trafficking industry because that's what was done to the parents and so on. And they were completely Dutch. They were not even Moroccan or foreigners or any of that sort. And then the child has to ask, well, this probably wouldn't have been safe for me to, yes, but then it's not like where they did live, they remembered high school, so that is global. Now, naturally, the astrological predictions for the closing sextile of Pluto and Aries conjunct Neptune are what they are. Why say that now? Because it seems that there are many attempts to at least try to, if one viewer in 1,000 sees it, it's fine. Because if you know that this is where the trajectory is, and you see that the point of interference are actually so easy, like, is it something that is inconceivable to not have those weird rituals to the Moloch or to the indigenous gods that they do all these things to children and to people? Like, is it that much of a blasphemy to not have those things? And the only thing that would end that completely would be that everyone is no longer. It's not mass death here and there. No, the genocide, they made the Holocaust. The Holocaust wasn't just for Jews, because you have to understand everybody was a Jew back then. It's like in Soviet Russia, okay, you don't like that person, this is a spy, this is a spy, this is a spy, this is a spy. Not talking about the people who are actually spies and they're human traffickers, okay? For the other people. Then in Germany, you don't like that person, it's no problem. Here lives Jew, here lives Jew, here lives Jew, here lives Jew. Why does Jew have blue eyes and blonde hair? Well, I don't know, Jew from Ukraine. A Jew is a Jew. And this how many people, this how you get 6 million in the concentration camp. For those who like, there weren't 6 million. Da, 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 da. Yeah, there were Germans too. There were Europeans as well. It's very easy to Jew a person during the Holocaust. If they were disabled, same. LGBTQ, same. Why did Hitler have a house? He said, I cannot be an officer. Was he not tortured? Would he not say, Arbeit macht frei? More humane would be to immediately kill everybody. Of course, the most humane would be to stop ritual abuse, but that seems irrational to people. They say satanic panic. Okay, then die. What can you say? No, you must be imagining, and then a bomb drops on the hospital. It was so lovely. A bomb drops. Nobody got killed. Everybody knew, so they evacuated the people ahead of time, so the bomb dropped on the building. Because they're changing the structure of hospitals now. People say, we lost our jobs. No, you didn't. You didn't do your jobs. Yes, the same bomb, the same building that Lilach girl committed suicide. She jumped from. Why? Because of the maltreatment she got in the psychiatric department in Soroka. So she jumped to her death. But you take a person, take their freedom, take this, take that, drug them up. What do you expect there to be? Why she didn't want to drop the bomb? That's why she killed herself. She didn't want to drop the bomb. But how many people will kill themselves because they don't want to drop the bomb, and then they are judged because it's like, oh, they made bad decisions. They will go kaf kela, kaf this, kaf that, kaf kaf. There are those people that say if a person killed themselves, they go into this thing where they are suffering because they chose to take their life. No, fuck it, stop ritual abuse. No, really, how many people are we going to lose to suicide? Suicide is societal murder, let's begin with that. But how many people are we going to lose to that societal murder until entire society goes boom? You ask me when? It's about 20 years from now. And this is how I open my Sunday and for a very good reason. I'm talking about that. For very good reason. So those of you that get to even hear that, understand that most, I've been seeing, let's talk about YouTube, I've been seeing a lot of people saying YouTube has gotten so lousy. It began with Facebook, then it happened to YouTube, then it happened to other social media. People are not even exposed in the algorithm to the conversations of other people. The censor is off the roof. Who are all these people doing the censorship? And that's the world that they eventually created. It's not their fault, but this is the best they could. And for that suffering to no longer go on, the trajectory they are going to be now Neptune Saturn is mass death. Let there be no rose-colored glasses around that. Neptune Saturn is mass death. Neptune is global. Saturn is death. Doesn't have to be plague, but it is what it is. In the sign of war, we are already seeing that taking place. Yeah, we are already seeing that taking place. And after let's go back to the 90s, because the Saturn Neptune of the 90s, of course, was applying to the square with Aries, so there was a disagreement. This is how the Soviet Union dissolved. Yes, there was Chernobyl, but other than that, it was a leak. Okay, Neptune rules leaks, so it was a leak. That leak affected the children of the 90s as well. The bone structure of many was affected by that leak years after, and thousands of kilometers away. That is Neptune. Neptune is radiation. So in the aftermath, there was a lot of discussion. The people had a hard time to even envision freedom because they were exhausted. Now we are in another situation where something is going to dissolve. What is that something? What is that structure? I don't know. Because it's something that they are building to dissolve. It's something is building to dissolve. Aries is something relatively new, so it's going to happen relatively fast because of Mars. For example, the Soviet Union dissolution was a completion of the aftermath of the Cold War. So that's Saturn in Capricorn. It's in a home sign. Now anything Neptunian is a telltale of something that is completing from at least 150 years. And then something is building to dissolve. When I take a look at the buildings that were bombed in the recent Iran-Israel thing, it was new buildings. New buildings, sometimes just recently constructed, they were built to dissolve. So it's kind of like, if you think about 15-minute cities, they are building them to dissolve them. They don't intend to keep them. For those of you who are invested in that, I would be keeping that a reminder that life in a bunker is not so sunny. So, and for heaven's sakes, we need the sun. There's only so much daylight lamps that can go without fresh air. And yet, if you cannot have a degree in the United States without partaking in satanic ritual abuse and mass rape of people in fraternities, parties, and sororities, then we can't really rely on the land of the free to save the day. and economically enslave everybody. And but this was a trick that they learned from UK. It's not, they didn't invent that. They just modernized it. Same with slavery, some would say. So, but definitely, well, our eyes are still to the United States because it's not like social credit score or something. And when they want to make that global, I saw already things from Canada, from Europe. Yes, digital ID, digital euro, digital this, digital that. Imagine that on a Mercury retrograde. It is going to be funny. Mercury retrogrades a couple of times a year. So this is going to be very hilarious. And again, I'm all for technology. Technology is good. Slavery is bad. There's a way to do the mining not based on slavery. Sweden did that. And that they did 105% tax and say tax with trust, so that you will want to go against the taxes and not against the money laundering. Because a welfare state simply means that after you cannot work anymore because you've worked in the mines or you've worked in intense industry, then you have your sauna and you have your forest and you have your vacation. And so on and so forth. But all the people that participate in that, secret or not, yes, they are building a bomb above that is to fall above their heads first of all. Because it's not like in the other side they weren't told that they are going to win the war and then the other folks will be in the bunker.